things that's on the West Coast. Put it like that.
Right. Uh, you worked with Above the Law and Dr. Dre on your first debut album. What were those studio sessions like making that album?
Oh, incredible, man. Everything was in real time. Making those records during the riots. You know what I'm saying? Brothers hustling, brothers going to jail, uh, gang activity, uh, big dope D-boy activity. It was real. You know what I mean? But we were able to put all those things, put our pain on paper, put our game on paper, what was wrong about uh, the policing, society way before the riots came. You know what I'm saying? Even we touched on Donald Trump back then. It's crazy. It'll make your hair stand up. You go back and listen to some of them Above the Law records. It was prophetic, not knowing that sometimes the universe, it's not like we proclaiming we prophets, but the universe will use different artists, and years later some things will come to fruition. It was awesome, man. Like you couldn't you couldn't trade shoes with anything else than to be privileged to be a disciple, actually a disciple and a participant of those times. See, a lot of people can speculate, but we still living here to tell a real story and fill in the gaps. Wasn't nothing like it, man. And it's a lot of it will always be duplicated because something great is duplicated. But at the same time, Kinko's can't duplicate the original.
Right. You released one single, Nickel Slick Nigga, from that project. What was the reception like when you released that single? What were the streets talking about?
Oh, the streets was loving it. It was big underground. You know what I'm saying? It charted. It did pretty decent, but because we were missing that radio support because of my name, that kind of like put a little dent in the game. But it's just like when you look at the old school Scarface movies. It wasn't a big popular hit when it came out. What made it a hit years later when people start playing it on VHS and rappers start using the names and shit, and the streets start identifying. That's why you see a lot of hustlers with those pictures of Scarface on the wall. But it wasn't popular when it came out. They wanted to ban that shit and everything. So I kind of identify that to that type of analogy that, hey, people didn't understand cocaine, but it took years later for people to get it. And I felt like that's cool for me because that sounded like the same story. Bootsy and George Clinton sat me down and told me, hey, man, we had to bust our ass because people wasn't getting the phone. It took us 18 years. And for us to really get it cracking in California. You know what I mean? But that goes to show, in this game, either you in it passionately, because if you passionately in this game and you love music and what you do, you're able to endure the highs and lows because your passion over outstands, outstands all that bullshit you go through. And it's just like I had to keep going because, I got a family to feed. I got a beautiful wife. We just celebrated our anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
31 years married, 37 years together, and 8 kids, brother.
That's a
And
blessing.
it's like I had food to put up on the table for the family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So not only I was passionate, but I was hustling with a motive. You know what I mean? That no matter what, the homies is passing. You got Eazy passing. I got, you know what I'm saying? Pac passing. KMG, DJ Trey. It's enough to say, man, fuck this shit. But I kept going, man, because when God put it in you, He put it in you, not on you.
Right. Very limited guest features on that debut album. Was that something you wanted to come across just standing alone on your own, or did you want more guest features on that debut album?
Well, I was part of interrupting a broadcast system with all these features. Trust that. I'm responsible for that. And I say that in a humble way. But then we come from the era of the 70s and 80s to where you didn't have to hear 10 niggas on the OJ's record or Marvin Gaye record. You just heard Marvin Gaye. You didn't have to hear a bunch of niggas on Prince records. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes it can have this taboo. You know what I mean? Because now people are checking for you only by who you fucking with. And they overlook how hard you work, how talented you are, and how it makes them make your records make them feel. So yeah, I have some features on my stuff, but what I start getting away over the years is that, hey man, I'm like the OJs of Marvin Gaye. I'm a one man band. Don't buy my records just because I ain't got Humo SD, Public Chuck DS1 on my shit. You know what I'm saying? Either you into the music or you into the gossip, who you got on your shit. And there ain't nothing wrong with getting features to this day. But as an artist that has, been real in the field since I was in band at 12 years old and where I come from, it's like I had to bring it. It's like when you look at Michael Jordan, when you look at Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he had his brothers around him, but he had to do that moonwalk. He had to bring it. Michael had to be Michael. So it's like I learned from that, and I ain't tooting my own horn. I think after 35 plus years, you figure, you know what I'm saying? People should get into cocaine and not who's featured on my shit. So I got away from that, and I've been blessed enough to be fortunate for people to reciprocate it. Like, wow, man, cocaine, stand alone. If you
Right,
dope, you dope. Ain't no substitution for good. I don't care who you are. You know what I
right.
mean?
Best memory of your debut album, Addictive Hip Hop Music. What was your best memory recording that album?
Actually, Dr. Dre gave me two of the beats that eventually the Dog Pound used on that album. And at the same time, that year after NWA stuff came out, then my stuff came out in 91. That was when the fall of Dr. Dre and Eazy-E was on. It was months after, like everything was happening simultaneously, man. And they left, and at the same time, we were gonna leave because there was some discrepancies at Ruthless with the paperwork. I'm not lying, but Easy got it together and said, "Nah, man, I don't want to lose my groups. I don't want to lose Dr. Dre. Tell you the truth." But see, Dre and Suge already got together. And Suge got with Above the Law and Cocaine because actually the first people that was going to be on death row if we thought about leaving Ruthless was Above the Law and Cocaine. A lot of people don't know that. But we
Wow.
backed out of the deal, rekindled our business relationship with Eazy-E, and Easy had set up meetings for Dr. Dre to come to, but him and Suge was already settled on doing their thing. And instead of Above the Law and Cocaine being over there at death row, because we backed out, and Easy made right by us. He went and grabbed the same people that auditioned for Above the Law at the beginning of '91, which was Snoop Dogg, which was Nate Dogg. Snoop and Nate Dogg before Death Row auditioned for Code 187 because Code 187 was going to put them out. That did not happen. At the same time, Dre left. Dre called Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, big bro, called Cuzzo and said, "Man, I know you working with I know Snoop Dogg auditioned for y'all. What's happening?" He was like, "Man, he dope, man." He actually gave Dre the blessing after Warren G brought his tape up there. You know what I'm saying? And played it for Dre. Dre was interested, but Dre knew that Hutch wanted to fuck with Snoop. But then Whatchcott said, "Nah, I'm finishing out the cocaine record," and whoop de whoop. So after we backed out and rekindled our business relationship with Eazy in the same year, months after that, all the while, Death Row was being formed. We backed out. They picked up Snoop, and then months later, in '92, going in '92. we start hearing them diss us. And we was like, damn, we was on. We start hearing the words that we would say on records, they saying on records. Real shit. So I get it at the end of the day. Okay, you ride with Death Row now. We get it. So they dissed us on records. We came back at them. And Eazy, he wasn't so big on dissing so quick because he had people under contract. He was still making money. You could diss all day, but my money is built. You know what I'm saying? But then it got to the point where it was like, no mas. You got to say something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Ruthless was going after Death Row and vice versa. We felt that they, at that time, stole our ideas, our shit, our style, our language, even ideas off the Black Mafia life sounded. The Chronic sounded so similar to Black Mafia life. We was like, oh, y'all hoodwink y'all shit, and that's cool. But then it's ironic because that same year, Deep Cover soundtrack was coming along. And when the Deep Cover soundtrack came along, it was a guy by the name of Hank Carwell pulled a gangster move and said, even though Ruthless and Death Row is beefing, I still want Kokane on the very soundtrack that introduced Snoop Dogg, Deep Cover, and Nickel Slick Nigga was remixed on the Deep Cover soundtrack in '92. That was Hank Carwell doing that. Because at the black men, y'all fighting over nothing. Eventually, y'all get over this.
Right.
You know, and once we got over it, in 1999, we squashed the funk because we was friends before. I mean, hell, Snoop used to call me in Rancho Cucamonga when I lived in Deer Creek. He wasn't even on yet. You know what I'm saying? But he came into the game because it was certain things that was in favor for him to do that. You know what I'm saying? Even though years later he found out, damn, it's gonna be a hell of a ride at Death Row, and we was trying to tell him before the gate. You know what I mean? But things, they happen the way the universe wants them to happen. And in 1999, we squashed the funk and did some most incredible records from the Last Meal, being on Deuces and Trays, the East Siders, just incredible impact over there at Doghouse at that 1999 period. Then it gave me a chance to link back in with Dr. Dre too as well and get on the Chronic 2001. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of good things happen from that one record, Who Am I? But especially happened because, you know, doors being shut in my face because my name Kokane and they wanted to call me some bullshit Who Am I? Because they were scared to press the button and that made Eazy-E and them hot. That's why they went to Relativity. Because Eazy was the type of person is like, fuck that. This is cocaine. But they wasn't hearing that. But I looked years back later and I see all the different strong bullet points from doors being shut in my face because of the name of cocaine. It made me relentless, homie. It made me work just as hard as any other person that claimed they work hard in this business from that
Right.
one record, Who Am I?
Right.
So
When that
now they know who the fuck I am.
Absolutely. After that album did its thing, your debut album, where do you find yourself, and what's the relationship like at Ruthless Records? What are you seeing going on?
I mean, there's a new Ruthless Records, you know, Eric Wright Jr. and all them, you know. I encourage them to keep going, keep their daddy legacy alive, you know, as Eazy-E being our big brother and mentor, we always gonna keep his name alive, you know what I mean? But it's evolved into, you know, how the youngsters need to perceive it, how they need to roll with it because, you know, we elders now. And some brothers ain't here no more. So it's for the youngsters to accept that baton and run that marathon. Real talk. And I'm just happy that it's in the right place, you know what I mean, where it needs to be, and that's in the hands of Eric's kids.
Right. Like I said, after your album does its thing, there's about a 3-year period before your second album. I'm gonna go through some of the artists who came out before your second album, and you can tell us some stories if you worked on any of their albums. Just some of your thoughts before we get to your second album. Above the Law, vocally Pippin.
Oh man, we was clowning on air. It was like getting into our real G Funk bag. You know, after doing Black Mafia Life, doing vocally pepping. And then once we came around the Funk Upon a Rhyme and Uncle Sam's Curse, we had it together. We couldn't miss a beat. Like when you hear those two records, because Above the Law and Cocaine is still the same. Just like NWA and DLC. You know what I mean? It's no different. But, you know, I was a solo artist, but a lot of stuff I did around Above the Law, I would do harmonies. I'd be up in the paint with my cousin. You know what I'm saying? He would tell me what to do, and I would build some harmonies up. Everybody would play their puzzle piece that was in the group. You know what I mean? But I was doing a lot of singing and a lot of things that I'm doing now. You know what I'm saying? So that really was like a precursor for me to branch out and you know, have other artists worldwide interested in the particular things I do on records. You know what I'm saying? So it worked out. So it was incredible, man. It was an incredible ride, you know. That was you know, rest in peace KMG. You know, it's just Above the Law don't never get the credit they deserve, bro.
Right.
Above the Law, and a lot of people say Cocaine, but I'm just gonna stick with Above the Law. They don't get the credit they deserve, but it's a blessing that, you know, me and my big cousin Hutch still here making records. You know, it done touched the globe now. So it keeps food up on the table, but it keeps the sound going. And that's something that funk and soul music, you know, no matter how old you get, it's not like you a basketball player and your knees are bad. You got to see what George Clinton and Ron Isley, you see what he did on Versus. You know what I'm saying? Music is music, no matter how old you are. And it's just a blessing to be able to still make records with my cousin coming from that era. Me and my cousin started off in the 80s, bro. We this If you ain't patient for this game and passionate, man, don't give up no day job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But we still here to make the records that the world now fell in love with.
Do you remember a group by the name of Yomo and Malky?
Man, that was fam. Remember Yomo and Marky, Blood of Abraham, the At Band Clan, which are now the Black Eyed Peas. You know what I'm saying? Eazy was a revolutionary. He went outside the box. You know what I'm saying? He was doing something that was controversial, like when him and Brownside hooked up. Toker, rest in peace. Danger, rest in peace. He was doing shit out of the norm of the streets, out of the norm of politics. He didn't give a fuck about the politics. He really was gangster with his. It's like it don't matter what group you come from, what race you represent. He'd fuck with you if you kept that shit gangster and real. And see,
Uh,
we all learned and adopted ways from him. And it made life a lot better because, like I just said, through those experiences, him, you know, naming all those names who went on to, you know, sell Muco records and have tech companies and shit, you know, and all this shit. And for him and Toker to set an example how Hispanics and blacks, we ain't no different if we just come together and ride and we can use this music to bring a lot of people together and lock down a lot of walls. Man, that was 30 something years ago. He didn't he did it from the heart. So each one teach one, we learn from each other. And that's why it's a beautiful thing through the art forms of music coming from the suppression we all came from. Because there's a lot of people in the ghetto that relate to this, man. He showed us as a ghetto nigga, you can do this shit. And a lot of people, they get a lot of credit. I don't knock no people for their credit. but they don't never talk about the mecca. Eazy was the mecca.
Some of those groups that you mentioned earlier, At Band Clan, Yomo Malky, and Blood of Abraham, did you have any involvement on those projects while waiting your turn for your second album?
Nah. See, Eazy let us all work. You know what I'm saying? There was different people in different studios. I know once later BG Knockout Drexter came on and my boy Red um and Unique, they was in doing their lane. And then when Bone and them came on, I remember Bone when they first got off the bus and they came straight to the video because if you look at Eazy-E, me, Eazy-E, and Hutch, any last words, you see Bone and Toker in the video. You know what I mean? So what was Eazy was doing, he was handpicking, but at the same time, he was a visionary. He said, okay, damn, Brother Law, woo, woo, bow, over there. I'm going to tap into that. Oh, okay, Blood of Abraham. I'm going to tap into that Jewish lane over that. Yomo Markey, I'm going to tap into that. Like Wildin' Out, you know what I'm saying? But like hippie type shit. Okay, boom, I got Terry B over here. I'm going to tap into that shit. I got Jimmy Z over here. I'm going to tap into the jazz. I got NWA. I got Hoes with Attitudes. I already spin the wheel on some pop shit with JJ Fad. And I got Bone Thugs and Harmony when we did not understand that style. But we respected it. We didn't say it was garbage. We said it's different. But Eazy was like, nah, nigga, this is going to be like Mom's Apple Pie. And them niggas broke Elvis records. Bone Thugs and Harmony. You know, seen the best BG Knockout. All down the line, gangster bitch mentality. You know what I'm saying? Which years later, that turned into kind of lightweight in the Doggy All-Stars. He was a visionary, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what the honorable thing about it. As a person can make records, the records that people still enjoy worldwide, but to be able to come from that era and tell you how it felt, man, that's the beautiful thing about living, brother, to tell that story. You
Right.
dig?
In 1992, like you said, your Nickel Slick Niggas joint got remixed to put on a deep cover soundtrack. Do you see any momentum with the album after that song was included on the deep cover soundtrack?
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, to hear your song a little bit, soundbite, and the movies. You know what I'm saying? That was cool. That's a cool experience. But still, you had to bust your ass. This ain't no 9 to 5. It's a 24/7 thing. You know what I'm saying? So we just had to work and work and work. And even when we thought we was overworked, we had to work, 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 work. You know what I mean? But it opened up some doors for me because, people got to understand my first platinum, I didn't care if radio didn't want to play Cocaine. My first platinum record was talking that shit on NWA shit. Well, all right, y'all across the USC, Compton Watch. They don't, introducing characters, co-writing Appetite of Destruction. I was like, I was cool. You know what I mean? Because I didn't really like the camera. I just like to be creative in the studio. I didn't never like the fame part of it, to tell you the truth. So I was
Right.
comfortable with, okay, I was like Chuck D. Fuck a radio. Suckers never play me. That made me push me more harder. And the streets fell in love with it even more because they said, damn, this nigga could call himself Cocaine. Listen to his music. He dope. I wasn't about that blase appealing to, you know, people that are programmed for radio. No. Either you accept it like NWA and Cocaine, and either you don't.
Right. Around 91, 92-ish, the breakup with Dr. Dre and Eazy-E. What are you witnessing as far as the tension with Ruthless and Death Row around this time?
A lot of poison put out there. Poison on purpose.
Was it blew out of proportion, or was there some stuff that you know?
Absolutely. When a nigga coming to jack one of the biggest artists, the biggest producers in the game, you know what I'm saying, and you're not able to work it out, you know what I'm saying? Should kind of lightweight put some poison in the game. He did. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we backed out of it. And I ain't personally never had a problem with Suge or him or Big West. You know what I mean? But just to keep it real, it was a lot of like if you representing that and he representing that, it's like ain't no rules to no fighting. Oh man, you gonna let me get up? You kicked me. Nah, you kick me, nigga. I'ma kick you back, nigga. And there was a lot of niggas kicking each other, plain and simple. Easy didn't want it like that, but Drace and Cube left. You know, we used to be in the club sometimes, and every time that record come on, goddamn, I heard y'all set it off. Used to be, you know, Cube was like with the bomb squad, like we was like nigga. So they came with that NWA. We get you, fuck you with a proof stick, and bitch ass, woo woo. But the niggas got off. But see, I think Dre knew something that Easy probably wasn't ready to accept yet because of his company. And that's Dre. Dre was going to be who Dre was going to be, regardless, without Death Row. The man was fucking too talented. He's like a modern day Quincy Jones. You understand? But at the same time, he built around other great musicians that was equally yoked as him, that helped him. And that's what real musicians do. So regardless if we had a problem, Dre wanted to step into his destiny, but then had to figure out the same thing we backed out from years later. He gonna eventually back out from and say, I'm leaving with nothing to start my own shit, which was the best move when he left Death Row. So everything we was up on, they had to encounter that. But for pros and cons, look what happened. Spine, Snoop Dogg career, Eminem, the list goes on. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I think Dre was already set on moving, but we wasn't. It had to take Eazy-E, you know, to have an unfortunate death, man, for us to say, okay, it's time for us to move on.
Right.